Hey guys, what is going on? Sharp Thinking here. I wanted to do a Firetac video. So you guys saw this in my Ultratech video I uploaded yesterday. This was sent to me by Kenny over at In the Pocket, and I believe it's In the Pocket Knives on Instagram. Kenny's a great guy. I've known him for almost a couple of years now. Go check out his stuff. It is much better than my content. I promise you that. But yeah, major shout out to him for this. I've already secured one for myself, or I've tracked one down. I haven't paid for it yet, but my buddy's holding it for me. Yeah, really cool knife. Flies under a lot of guys' radar. It's not a very well-known Hinderer. Normally when people think of Hinderer, they think of the XM18, which I have right here. And I love this knife. It's very well built, as are all of the Hinderers I've ever handled. It's just, not a lot of people know about this knife, carry this knife. I don't see them a lot on Instagram or Facebook. Typically what I see is the Full Track, the Eclipse, and the XM18 or XM24. But this and Alchemy 1 kind of brought this into our lives. Kenny said the same thing in our group chat today. But Alchemy 1 made a great point about this knife, and that is that it is basically a Hinderer Sabinza. I don't know if that was his exact wording, but this thing's fucking awesome. It's probably the most functional of the Hinderers in terms of like an EDC, pocket-friendly, lightweight knife. I love the XM18. This is a skinny XM18, but it's just not the best EDC. It's definitely a great EDC, but I wish it were a little thinner in the pocket. Of course, it's pretty wide. This one being a skinny, it's not too thick, but you know, this just kind of solves a lot of the issues. I'm not a huge flipper guy. This doesn't have a flipper. It never had a flipper. It's got a lot of good stuff going for it, but let's do a size comparison first. Sabinza 21, Umnumzan. What else? I guess we'll do an XM18. Pretty similar in size. I love the blue Hinderers. I think they look great. I don't know why. Let's see. Ultratech LUDT. Anthem. How about this? Swiss Army knife. Got that laying around. And we'll do some microtags. There's a sigil and a SOCOM. No stitch today, unfortunately. So, yeah, we'll get straight into it. Let's talk about the blade. The blade is pretty amazing. It's a nice drop point blade. This one is technically it's a spear point according to Hinderer, but I would consider it, God, I can never talk. I would consider this to be a drop point. It's got a nice little drop. It's not really a spear point, like, you know, a bayonet kind of CRKT M16 blade. It's got a lot of flat and then a lot of belly right up at the tip. It kind of reminds me of the Leatherman Charge. Is that what it is? The Charge blade? Great blade shape. This one, of course, is larger and overall wider, but similar in terms of like the edge profile. Now, some of these are going to be 20 CV, and I think a few of them are going to be S35VN. I've really only seen 20 CV. I've never handled or seen in person a S35VN Firetac. However, I've seen plenty of these in 20 CV. And if they do ever bring this model back, which is not currently in production, it'll be in 20 CV, as are the Hinderers, or the, that's funny, I call this a Hinderer, the XM18s. It's almost like such a flagship of theirs that this basically is their brand. But this knife is definitely underrated. So I said it was a little bit better of an EDC for me than the XM18. Now, here's why that is. So in a lot of my EDC tasks, I like, I guess we'll just stick to the blade for now. But I like a more narrow blade, kind of like the Sebenza or the Anthem, something kind of this profile. This is much more along the lines of that. A lot of these XM18s are pretty wide, and they have a nice flat, but I don't know, it just takes up a lot of space in the pocket. And I've mentioned before, I've broken phone screens before. Yes, I am an idiot for carrying a knife in my phone pocket, but it is what it is. I'll never learn. You can't change me. I don't know. I'm kind of dumb sometimes. But yeah, I like a narrow blade. This one does not have a choil. I love that. So these XM18 choils, you can see how big that is. Stuff gets snagged in here all the time. If you're doing a long draw cut on cardboard or, you know, whatever it is, plastic, a lot of times it will bunch up in here, and then you kind of have to restart the cut. Not really an issue on this guy. So no finger choil at all. You get a lot more cutting edge for basically the same size. Knife, I see those as wins. You do have some jimping up here. It's not very sharp. Kind of typical of Hinderer's blade jimping. It's kind of rounded off, but you know me, I don't like jimping. What else? Flat grind, they also make a Spanto. It is reasonably thin behind the edge. It's probably the same thickness as my Skinny, which is under 20 thousandths. I think it's probably around 17 thousandths behind the edge. Still, it could be thinner, of course. It could always be thinner until it's like 5 thousandths. Then I think we're good. But thinner than a PM2. This one, I believe, is sharpened at 15 or 16 degrees per side. Kenny did that edge, and it looks great. The knife cuts pretty well. I've only done light cutting with it at this point. But yeah, it is good to go. Oh, I tightened the pivot down all the way. I don't like drop shutty knives. I like kind of guiding the knife open like a Sebenza. Speaking of which, Teflon washers in this guy. I love that. Cheap to replace. They will not corrode. Tough stuff. Thermal stability. I kind of lost my train of thought there. Is excellent on Teflon washers. Good to go. I love them. I know Daddy-O EDC has been talking a lot about them. I did not even realize that until the other day. Someone mentioned it, but yeah, I think guys are starting to catch on. Super smooth though. It's that hydraulic action that you get that I talked about with the Gen 4 Hinderer. It's just beautiful. Let's see what else is going on. I don't know if this is a stock thumb disc. I really cannot tell. I forgot to ask Kenny, but it's not bad, especially for how I deploy the knife. If I loosen the pivot, I can flick the knife open. It's just I tighten the pivot down all the way because that's how I roll. Titanium frame lock, of course you guys know, Hinderer, that's kind of all they do. The clip on this guy is phenomenal. Same clip as you get on the XM18. This is one of my favorite clips of all time. Let's talk about, well, okay, I should have grabbed a full thickness XM18, but something I like that both the Skinny and the Firetac do is that you don't have Chicago screws on this side. So you can tighten both sides down. You don't have to deal with any of that like falling out bullshit that you get with the standard thickness. I like that. I know some guys like the Chicago screws. Now, I don't hate the Chicago screws. I just don't love them. You can change it to tip down. Never seen anyone carry it like that. Steel lock insert. I've been able to get Hinderers to fail. I'm not super worried about their locks in practical use because, of course, the nature of a frame lock, you hold it in your hand like this. But steel frame lock, or not steel frame locks, steel inserts on frame locks, in my opinion, they just seem to fail a little bit more often than a just straight up titanium frame lock. Now, let's see, is that going to be okay? I'll be right back. All right, and we are back. That is that room temperature IQ I was talking about. I've been studying all day. I'm going to be a little bit dumb right now. Yeah, so caught myself on the edge. What are you going to do? It happens. It happens a lot in my videos specifically. I need to be more careful. But I think I was talking about the insert on the lock. I don't prefer a steel insert. You guys know that. I'm not going to talk about it anymore in this video. I should make a titanium frame lock video. I meant to, comparing the Strider's lock, the SNG, to the Sabenza, and the Hinderer, the new gen and the old gen, to those two. But I didn't. So yeah, that's that. I don't know. Also, these lock inserts double as an over travel, but then why have two over travels? I could not see someone breaking even one over travel. I'm sure it's just for show, but you know, it is what it is. So, handle overall design, I love it. No jimping. You guys know, I did a cut test a while ago with not this knife, but a Gen 4, which I love the Gen 4, but God, was that knife painful. So, let's take a look here. We have jimping all down the spine, really far down. We have some on the back, we have some right here, and some on the lock. We don't need all that, and here is proof. This is good. I like this a lot. It's more ergonomic by far than the XM18s. The XM18s, the standard XM18 is a little blocky. I think that the skinny XM18 is, ergonomically speaking, significantly better than the standard thickness XM18. This, on the other hand, is next level. It is just incredibly comfortable. I really cannot feel a hot spot on the knife. The clip is a little problematic at times. However, that's going to be the case 9 times out of 10. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but if you take the pocket clip off your knife, it is so much more comfortable. It's like a fixed blade. Of course, you kind of have to have a clip for it to be. Well, you don't need to have a clip, but alright guys, so I sliced my finger open. I've been studying all day, so I think I've used all my brain cells to their max capacity. Not that I have too many to begin with, but moving on, I think I was talking about the lock. I don't prefer a steel insert on a titanium frame lock. I like the Sabenza, where it's just titanium on steel. I think that works fine. I've never had a lock move to 100% or really even past 60%. So I don't really understand it. I think it's a solution to a problem that doesn't really exist. But I'm going to make another video on that, and we're going to talk about lock geometry overall in that same video. Now, let's talk about the ergos. So here is where this knife really shines relative to the XM18. The XM18, and I love the XM18. You guys know, Love it. I carry it all the time. I have several XM18s. When you compare these two knives, this is an ergonomic nightmare, and this is a dream. It's night and day. Now, these skinnies are, in my opinion, a little bit more ergonomic than the standard thickness XM18. They're less blocky. Do they have different issues? Yeah, they do. For instance, this is razor thin and can be at times a little sharp, but overall I have to say the skinny is superior ergonomically to the standard XM18. I like this, but I really like this. So what don't we have? Zero jimping, except for right here. So on the XM18, you have jimping on the lock. You don't need that. You've jimping back here. Never understood what that was for. You've jimping down here, which I, again, don't really understand. And you have jimping from here all the way down to right about here. So it's a lot of you have jimping on the back of the flipper too. I don't even know why it would be put here. I never thought about that. I'm gonna have to look at that later. But yeah, so this has no jimping. I love that. That's so nice to see. And if only we could get an XM18 with no jimping. But for now, we have this. This knife is so nice in the hand. Everything falls into place where it should. This thumb ramp, I don't really naturally land on it. I kind of land right here when I grip the knife. I'm sure that, you know, this grip has its uses. For instance, draw cutting on like a cutting board. That's just not where my hand lands. Not that that's where it should. I just think it's a little bit more comfortable to grip it like this, at least for me. Yeah, so a couple things that I like to see here. We don't have a super extreme curve on the back of the handle. The center of your palm is the most sensitive part of your hand. And when you grip something with, let's see, do I have anything here? Ah, the XM18. Dragging this knife through the mud. So you get that a little, well, it's not that much more extreme. If you look at it, it's probably barely noticeable on camera, but you grab it right in here. That's right up in your palm. And if you put a lot of force down, you're definitely going to feel it in the center of your hand. This knife, it's not a problem, which is something I spoke very highly of on this knife, the Sebenza. In fact, the Sebenza has kind of a down curve in the middle where it focuses most of the force on the outside or the more muscly parts of your hand. Now, this knife does not have a down curve, but it's significantly better in terms of shape and how it interacts with the center of your hand. I love that, of course. Man, this video is going great. My phone died. So, I think I was talking about ergonomics. Overall, this is one of the most ergonomic knives that I currently have in my possession. It is fantastic. Couple things I did not touch on. The typical hardware for an XM18 is this big old beefy pivot screw. You don't have to deface currency or get the armorer's tool to adjust the pivot and fully take down the knife on this guy. It's just an Allen key. It's actually the same size as the... God. What is this called? The Sebenza. It's... All of these screws are the same size as what they would be on your standard 21. So that's kind of nice. I know a lot of guys that own the 21, you know, might get this. Kind of guys shopping in that price range. But I definitely like that a lot. Pivot strength, from talking with a lot of people, isn't really a humongous factor in a hard use knife. It is cool. I like this pivot quite a bit, but practically speaking, it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't add any strength to the knife in any meaningful or practical way. It just kind of looks cool and it's badass. We'll talk about the texture. I like the Hinderer texture. I've always liked it. I like the monkey's edge frag pattern too. I think I do overall prefer the standard Hinderer texture. This has it kind of in the middle, and it's just smooth G10 on the outside perimeter of that. Now it is slightly raised, which is interesting. It feels really nice in hand. It's not super aggressive up here, but you definitely get some decent grip on your fingers when you're gripping the knife like this. So yeah, overall, I have to say, I think there's a lot to like about this knife. I personally like it enough to buy one for myself. It's just, when you design a knife along the lines of such traditional classic designs, it's bound to be a great performer, great EDC. It's just, you know, how could it not be? There's just so many similarities between these three that, you know, no surprise I like it. But yeah, guys, I would highly recommend this. They are going to be kind of tricky to find. I think they're about $425. If not, they're $375. But I believe they're $425. That's the price of an XM18. So hopefully they do continue to make runs of these. I do not want to see the tri-way pivot in this knife. I am just not interested in that. Here's the reason. This knife has the tri-way pivot off center, and it will only run bearings. So if I try to put PB or Teflon washers in this guy, it will rub this lock side, and the action is just super stiff. Not acceptable in my opinion. I've not seen anything like that on any of the Gen 4s or knives that don't feature the tri-way pivot. Now, that being said, sometimes it turns out great. This knife runs pretty well on Teflon and pretty well on PB. My other Hinderers, kind of spotty, but yeah, I think I prefer this knife vastly over the, well, there is no tri-way version, thank God, but I think I would prefer just Teflon over a tri-way pivot. But yeah, guys, that's going to be all from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next. See ya.